All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and we've been going over um, this array article from JavaScript.info. I'm doing that again in lieu of giving you array examples from the miles per gallon program. Okay, I'm hoping this will be the last one that we'll have on arrays here, and then we'll go into strings. So the author says this is how this is another way that you can use this. Instead of putting these in brackets, you can say new array in parentheses, but brackets are shorter, so people can usually do it. All right, here we're creating a new array, and we're telling the system that it will have two elements in it, element 0 and element 1. But when we try to alert element 0, and you saw this before, we get undefined. Well, because this creates a new array, but it doesn't put anything in. All right? So use square brackets, and typically you won't have those problems. You can have arrays of multiple dimensions, and I always get, for lack of better words, a little bit amused when people tell me I don't understand how to use arrays of multiple dimensions. That doesn't make any sense to me. In fact, and I'm not making this up, there was a day at a previous place that I worked at that I had a person who said to me, I don't really understand how to use multi-dimension arrays. They make absolutely no sense to me. So I said, okay, let's talk about it a little bit. And I walked over, they walked over and started talking to them, and I noticed they had a tab up. And in that tab, I'll just open up a new workbook. They had this. In other words, they were running Microsoft Excel. And they had a bunch of numbers here. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to make these up. All right, so let's say that what I want is right here. I want this to be equal to the AVG. I don't remember how we even do this anymore. It's been a while. AVG of all of these. I don't know if it'll take this or not. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't like it. So we found a typo in your formula. Well, it did it anyway. It gave me the average. Okay? So why am I even showing you this? Well, the point is, what do we have here? These things up here, these are columns, right? The letters. These things down here, these are the rows. Whoops, didn't want to do that. But these are the rows. So I can work my way down and, and I can do a row at a time. Boom. Or I can do a column at a time. Boom. The point is, when you do a two-dimensional array, it's the same idea, except these are numbers representing the columns, and they start with 0. These are numbers representing the rows, and they start with 0. So really, when you work with a spreadsheet, you're working with a two-dimensional array. And that's what I'm trying to get across to you. All right? All right. You can have arrays of as many dimensions as you want. Most of the time, you don't find an array of more than 3 or 4 dimensions, usually 3, because it's hard for us to create some kind of a data structure where you can't, in your mind, where you can't kind of envision it in your mind. And since none of us can, that I know of, can envision fourth dimension, it wouldn't make much sense. But you could make an array like that if you wanted to or needed to. All right. Arrays have their own toString method. So in other words, if I create an array like this, and then I say the name of the array, string, I do an alert, I get this, and basically what that does, and I say, what it does is it gives me a string. That's what this is right here, 1, 2, 3. Okay? Again, would you want to use that? That's not the point. The point is you could use that if you wanted to. So remember, as we start, get towards the end here, an array is a special kind of JavaScript object. It's designed to work with data items that naturally belong together. Unlike most programming languages, the elements in a JavaScript array do not, repeat, not have to be the same data type. They often are. As I showed you before, you would have like a list of test scores. But if we wanted to combine a list of test scores along with the person's name who got the score, like Jeff 100, Sandy 87, Taylor 77, etc., you can do that too. Okay? All right. Typically, when you create a new array, you either dimension it or you just put in blank brackets like this. You can use the length property with an array, and it'll show you how many elements are in the array. You can add elements to the array as the program is running, just as you can add elements to the number of people who are in a line at a movie theater, as I already mentioned to you. You can remove elements from an array as the program's running. Like I mentioned, as you can remove the people not get removed, but people get served in a line. All right? So, we looked at some of the methods. Push, which adds items to the end. Pop, which removes items from the end. Shift, which removes an item from the beginning. And unshift, which adds to the beginning. So basically, pop and unshift are the same thing, but where pop removes from, pop and shift are the same thing, but whereas pop removes from the end, shift removes from the beginning. And push and unshift are basically the same thing, except push adds to the end, unshift adds to the beginning. I wish I had some cute little way for you to remember these, but again, the best way for you to remember these is to just work with them. We mentioned that there are different for loops that you can use. All right. Notice the one that I showed you. I would actually recommend most of the time that you use this one. Even though it's more typing, it works the fastest. It's old browser compatible, and this is typically the way you're going to run through a for loop to go through an array in any programming language. So it's the old learn it for one, learn it for all type of an idea. All right. So they've got some exercises in here, and I believe, they give an exercise and then they give the solution. All right. I would strongly suggest, if you get the time, that you look through these. Now, is that gonna, are you gonna totally understand all this stuff after you do it? Well, of course not. But ideally, at least, it will bring you on your way to starting to understand this stuff. All right? I'm not going to go through the time right now to go through these exercises. Okay? All right, so again, if you are interested in this article, as I mentioned, it is under https://javascript.info/array. All right? In the next lecture, I'm going to go through another one from javascript.info, but it's on strings, because the two topics that were discussed in Chapter 8 of our text were arrays and strings. So we're going to go through strings next. Okay? I will be back with that lecture shortly.